Am I the a-hole for telling my dad I don't want my stepmother around my children? Hey, this one's been weighing heavily on me. I honestly never expected things to get this bad with my dad, but here we are. I need an outside perspective. Let me give you some background first. My parents divorced when I was 9. It wasn't some messy, dramatic thing that tore the family apart in one explosive moment. It was more like a slow, silent crumble. A bunch of little things, distance, resentment, arguments behind closed doors, that eventually reached the surface. By the time they finally called it quits, I wasn't even surprised. A few years later, when I was about 12, my dad remarried. She wasn't evil or anything, no Disney villain stepmom story here, but we never clicked. I never felt warmth from her. Not real, genuine warmth. She wasn't outright cruel, but it always felt like I was a guest in her space, not her stepson. Like she tolerated me, but didn't really see me. Worse than that was the way she and my dad fought. Constantly. I was just a kid, but I remember the tension. You could cut it with a knife. I couldn't even tell you what they argued about because it was everything: money, work, chores, friends, schedules. The fights were relentless. Almost daily. I got used to tuning them out like white noise. By the time I hit high school and then joined the military, she had started withdrawing completely. She buried herself in her laptop, playing online text-based games with random people. Her connection with my father became more like roommates than partners. At least, that's how it seemed every time I came home. No affection, no laughter, no real communication. They didn't do anything together anymore, unless it involved going out with friends or traveling. Then things took a turn. About 3 years ago, my dad found out she was chatting regularly with some guy from one of those games. He was suspicious and honestly, so was I. But she denied everything. Claimed it was just friendly talk, and my dad, ever hopeful, gave her the benefit of the doubt. Now here's the kicker. All 3 of us work for the U.S. Postal Service. My dad is retired, I've relocated out of state, and she's still active and relatively high up the food chain. Her position involves frequent out-of-town travel for training, and although I also travel occasionally for work, it's not as often. Earlier this year, my dad dropped a bombshell. He told me that he had found proof she was, in fact, cheating with the same guy. On one of those trips. He suspected they'd even met up more than once, though the details were murky. He was clearly heartbroken, devastated really. So, I waited for what I thought was inevitable, a separation, maybe even divorce. But no. He said he was giving her another chance. I couldn't believe it. After all that history? After all the warning signs? I told him, very bluntly, that I didn't trust her and that she had no business still being in his life after betraying him like that. I told him I thought he was making a mistake. He didn't want to hear it. We didn't talk about it again. I let it go, mostly out of respect. Fast forward to this past October. I was sent out of state for work training, and as luck would have it, one of my cousins was getting married not far from where I was staying. My dad was planning a road trip out for the wedding and then intended to drive a bit further to visit me and his grandkids, including my youngest, who he still hasn't met. All seemed fine until the wedding day, when I looked over and saw her. He never told me he was bringing her. I didn't make a scene. It wasn't the time. It was my cousin's big day, and I wasn't about to let my feelings hijack someone else's moment. I kept my mouth shut. I barely spoke to her. Afterward, I tried calling my dad. He didn't answer. So I left a voicemail asking for a conversation about his visit. Specifically, about her meeting my kids. When he finally called back, I wasn't prepared for what happened next. He exploded. He started yelling the moment I picked up. Accused me of being judgmental. Said I was punishing him for his choices. He even dragged my wife into it, claiming she was behind all this, as if I don't have a mind of my own. He said, "What's she going to do besides shower them with love and affection? Then, I'm not going to cancel this trip just because your wife doesn't want her around the kids." And finally, "Is your marriage so perfect that you think you can judge mine?" I was stunned. We've never had a conversation like that. Not in all my life. And I was pissed. I told him this had nothing to do with my wife. That I made this call, not her. And that he had no right to compare our marriages because, newsflash, I've never betrayed my wife. She's never cheated on me. She's never left me feeling small or uncertain or disrespected. So no, they're not the same. I told him that he and his wife were no longer welcome in my home. I didn't want her around my kids, and if he insisted on bringing her, then I didn't want him around either. That was weeks ago. Since then, radio silence. No calls. No texts. Nothing. So, Am I the a-hole for denying my father access to his grandkids because of my stepmother? I know it seems harsh, but here's the thing. I don't trust her. She's proven who she is. And more than that, I don't want people around my kids who model toxic relationships, who teach them that betrayal is excusable if you smile afterward. I don't want to explain why grandma made grandpa cry. I'm not punishing him. I'm protecting them. But still, is that wrong?